You're listening to The Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
It's Monday night, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another episode of the Raw Reaction here on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. It is producer Killer Kev stepping back into his original role as host of the Raw Reaction, as Angry Tenzai and Big Vic are both on vacation. Some breaking news. Mr. Hulk Hogan tweeted some information this past weekend, and Angry Tenzai and Vic found out that this may tie in to proving once and for all that Chris Benoit is truly innocent. So they took a plane to a resort in Portugal to continue their investigations. That's why they are not available here tonight. So I am stepping in, and joining me for the second week in a row on the Angry Marks Podcast Network, able to fill in at the last second for us, returning to our airwaves, it is the one and only Rob the Mini. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Kev. Like I always say, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. I'm an asshole with opinions, and you're going to hear some on the Raw Reaction tonight.
As always, you got to have a little bit of asshole to deal with 3 hours of Raw, because sometimes it really stinks. But I didn't think it stunk tonight overall. What did you think?
Well, I'm sure we'll get to it. I felt like there were some good things that they did to build towards Mania, and I felt they've muddled some other pictures. But, you know, Mania is more about the main events or the semi-mains, whatever you want to call them nowadays, more than the undercard now.
Yeah, somewhat. I agree with that. And I think they did a really good job with setting up towards WrestleMania. We'll get into all that here in just a moment. Before we get started, a shout out to our friends that showed up tonight in the Angry Marks chat room. Of course, every night chat room is always open to have some good discussion. We have Bionic Iguana in there, and we had Rob the Mini in there, and I'm kind of surprised we didn't see Seth Draken popped up. Couple others came in and out overnight. You can always join us, AngryMarks.com /chat. If you would like to engage in more discussion outside of the Angry Marks chat room, though, we encourage you to go over to WrestleWork.com. It's a new online social community where wrestling fans and promoters and superstars in the business can all join together and have a great free open discussion about anything involving professional wrestling. It's absolutely free to join. You should go over to WrestleWork.com today. You should sign up for a free account. And when you get in there, find the Angry Marks Network faction and sign up and let WrestleWork know that Angry Marks is in the house. Join us today, Angry Marks faction, over on WrestleWork.com. So, getting into tonight's show, we opened up with what we thought was going to be a reunification of the Authority. Randy Orton was there, Seth Rollins and J&J Security was there, and Big Show and Kane were all there. And they were going to show they were going to have a show of force tonight, and it looked like everybody was on the same page. But after a few minutes, there immediately started to be some dissension from J&J Security. What do you think about this, Rob?
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, out of the group, J&J Security has gotten the most Orton abuse, so it makes sense for them to be most reticent to trust Randy Orton. It seemed like he kind of won over Kane, and Big Show and Rollins seemed to kind of buy into it the most out of the bunch. And then kind of Orton kind of ran each member of the Authority down and kind of had some funny lines here. I was kind of worried when he grabbed the microphone and started talking. You know, Orton's not exactly known for his promos, but I thought he did a decent job of getting in some really good one-liners here on each person. Even going so far as to skip over not Jamie, but the other one completely and just went right to Rollins and kind of dug in on Rollins as well.
Yeah, Joey Mercury just got no love at all from Randy Orton tonight. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if, I don't know. That was kind of curious that he didn't have anything to say at all, so.
Well, I think he just didn't have as good of a one-liner as like the short joke he had on Jamie. Because I mean, what are you going to do? Pick on the guy for being an ex-druggie?
Yeah, and maybe that's why Orton pulled up short on that, because he realized that something was about to fly out of his mouth that he didn't actually really want to say. So.
But it was revealed that, Orton was just playing a joke on the Authority, and kind of Rollins kind of shot at the other guys into kind of enjoying it for the joke that it was. And, I mean, this was a 15-minute promo to start off the show, Kev.
Yeah, it was a good one, although kind of watching it, and in retrospect as well, I think everybody kind of knew it really wasn't the joke, especially Seth Rollins. Rollins was just really hoping that it was the joke, but
yeah, I mean it's key. It's key that I think like you're right that Rollins in the back of his mind, maybe probably knows that Orton is up to something, but like as a true heel would, he's hoping that maybe he's wrong and he's just being paranoid, and that his golden goose isn't going to turn his back on him. But as we would find out later, he was wrong.
Yeah,
and hoping that.
Absolutely. And we'll get into that later in the show. But fans very vocal, very supportive of Orton overall, very vocal in their lack of support for the Authority. And Rollins got to tell them all, you know what, we're here, we're on the same page, just stuff it. So
yeah, that was a strange thing that we'll talk about is the crowd was very hot for the first half of the show. And as we go, the crowd gets to have a presence less and less.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of happens with 3-hour Raws, though. I mean, and as we talk about it, we'll kind of see why once again. Moving on into the show, though, our first match of the night was Daniel Bryan versus the Intercontinental Champion Bad News Barrett in a non-title match. And this was a fairly decent match. Wasn't too long. The commentary, wow, that was just something.
It was strange. Kev. I mean, I kind of get a kick out of R-Truth on commentary, but then when you mix him with Booker T on top of it, it just could be really over the top.
Oh, it was like JBL was on fire with references too. The three of them were just smoking coal out there.
Yeah, to the detriment of this match, I felt like. I mean, it wasn't Daniel Bryan's best effort, in my opinion, but I felt like they were so distracted and so kind of enthralled by R-Truth's, I guess, overness on commentary that they kind of forgot to call a large part of this match, Kev.
Well, I think that was actually on purpose, because really, the focus of this match was not the wrestling. The focus was on who was going to steal the Intercontinental title belt tonight. For the last couple of weeks, we've had everybody involved in this Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, stealing the title back and forth from each other, and Bad News Barrett just can't ever seem to catch a break to get his title belt back. And tonight, it was all focused on R-Truth out on commentary and why he had this burlap sack, and we eventually figured out why, because into the match, Daniel Bryan wins after hitting the running knee lift. That brought out Dean Ambrose, and Ambrose comes out and hits Barrett, and then we go on into Dean Ambrose versus Stardust with R-Truth still on commentary, and they're still cutting it up out there. And again, most of the focus of this match was not on the wrestling in the match, which again was fairly good. But
for what it's worth, I thought, like, if you're going to pick a match to kind of watch from Raw, this match was actually, in my opinion, the best one, the Ambrose and Stardust. Only because Stardust, I mean, I know he's kind of, ever since he started the Stardust gimmick, he kind of keeps one-upping himself on going with the gimmick.
Oh,
but I felt like he was really far out there on this one. I mean, when he came out and all the mannerisms they did with the belt and stuff like that,
yeah,
he really committed to this character. And I mean, in my heart of hearts, it kind of breaks my heart, Kev, because like this guy tries so hard with the shit that he's given, and he almost is never rewarded.
I don't know. I think having a good long career in WWE and receiving a paycheck is pretty much a reward in itself these days. So
yeah, but they always say that if you run with the ball, we'll give you more, and everything that they've given him that most people would probably fall flat on their face with. He's run with and done really well. Dashing, the paper bag thing, this thing. I mean, I just feel like he deserves maybe a better spot. Like, nothing like too major, but maybe like he should be at least one day one of those guys that kind of gets an obligatory, world title reign just for like respect purposes, because I mean, he does so much with so little. It would just be nice if they put something firm beneath him and see how well he does with that.
Yeah, possibly. But, I mean, you can't complain. He's got a couple of Intercontinental title reigns. He's got some tag team belt runs. I mean, he had a phenomenal run with his brother this past year. I mean, there's a lot of guys that would love to have the career that Cody Runnels has had so far.
The IC belt doesn't mean as much as it did once upon a time.
Well, maybe not, but still. The belt was on his strap, and he did go out there and defend it, and, it's not very often that he even has a bad match. And like you said, every gimmick that he's gone out there and done, he's killed it. So, yeah. I mean, there's not
I thought he was extra good tonight doing his Stardust gimmick. I mean, I thought it was really good. But again, we get Barrett coming in for the attack post-match, attacks Ambrose, and then Harper came out. And then, all hell breaks loose. There's a big fight with all the guys in the IC match at Mania. This whole distraction kind of leads to Barrett being the last one standing after just about everybody and their mother hits a finisher. And Barrett goes out to get his IC belt off of R-Truth. R-Truth is kind of hemming and hawing, but then he finally gives him a burlap sack. Wade Barrett goes out through the crowd thinking he has the belt. R-Truth is running away, and then this makes Wade Barrett reach into the bag. Voila! It's a replica, one of those cheap replica belts. Not even, the glorified $200 replicas that they do nowadays. It's like the old school foam replicas that I had to make do with when I was a kid. And R-Truth turns out he had the IC title still. In a different burlap sack.
I think it's kind of unfortunate that Michael Cole said it was one of the replica belts you could get off WWEshop.com. I figured that was a perfect opportunity to plug the fact that you can get the belt exclusively at Kmart.
I mean, you know what I mean. I mean, like, nowadays, most people go for the actual, really expensive replicas that pretty much look like the real thing, versus the foam belts that kind of were in vogue in the 90s and 80s.
Well, I don't know. It looked like it was a vinyl belt to me.
I'm sure they've changed the material. I mean, when I was a kid, it was kind of like a foam kind of vinyl kind of thing combination, where now I bet you it's a lot more like kind of like a almost like a fox leather kind of deal.
For the record, I do actually have a Kmart exclusive WWE electronic spinner belt. And when you push a button on it, it starts spinning up and lights start flashing and everything, and John Cena's theme plays. It's totally awesome. I bring it to bed with me every night. It's
whoa. TMI.
It's fantastic. Winner of the second match was Dean Ambrose with the Dirty Deeds on Stardust. And then, as we mentioned, R-Truth in the middle of the melee stole the belt, eventually gave it back to one Mr. Bad News Barrett, who got the bad news of the night that he received yet another fake. So, poor Mr. Bad News Barrett.
Not to mention he continues his losing streak.
Yes, this is true as well. But I say most likely that means Barrett's going to retain at the pay-per-view. Move on into the show. Tonight's induction for the WWE Hall of Fame is not a wrestler this time. Rather, WWE made the announcement earlier today. They're going to start a new tradition at the WWE Hall of Fame called the Warrior Award. And they are going to give it to special individuals who display courage and integrity and inspire others around the world. And this year's recipient, named in honor of the Ultimate Warrior, who was inducted himself last year and then days later was unfortunately no longer with us, is another individual who captured the hearts of wrestling fans all over the world last year and is now again no longer with us. Connor Michalik. If you remember, he was a young man who had a pediatric brain tumor, and it was incurable, but he reached out to WWE Universe, and the WWE Universe stars really embraced this kid. They all love him, from the CEO all the way down to the lowest employee. They all just absolutely fell in love with this kid and put him over like $1 million during his last days here. So WWE is going to pay him one final tribute, and they are going to induct him as a celebrity member of the WWE Hall of Fame. And that's just fucking awesome.
He passed away April 25th, 2014 at the young age of 8 years old. And that they gave some notification about like how they have like a Connor's Cure charity thing going, that they've already raised $200,000, and that they've already helped 50 families.
Wow, that is just absolutely awesome. It's an unfortunate end for young Connor, but his legacy will go on. His family is doing good things now, and they were at ringside tonight as well.
Yeah, with his brother. Yeah. I'm not too ashamed to admit that I was kind of getting choked up watching this, and a few tears escaped my eyes, and I have a hard time even talking about it now.
Yeah, definitely. So we won't drag on it much longer. We're not going to bring this podcast down any. Let's pick it up a bit. Ladies,
this was the moment of the night here.
This may be the moment of the night. It wasn't even 10 o'clock, and Paul Heyman comes out, and we've had the rumors for the last week or so with Brock Lesnar supposedly walked out of Raw last week. The rumor was that he was upset that Roman Reigns had failed a drug test, which from what I heard actually wasn't true. So everybody, and then he was at UFC before last week's Raw, and everybody was all aflutter because does this mean that Brock Lesnar is not going to re-sign with WWE afterwards? Does this mean that now Roman Reigns is going to have to be put over? But is Roman Reigns really ready? Are they going to have to pull the trigger with Seth Rollins? We don't know. But what we do know is that tonight, Brock Lesnar was in the house, and all he had to do was step into the ring and stand there as Paul Heyman once again hustled the entire crowd with a strong promo, which completely buried Roman Reigns' character as not being ready for this, not being fit for this. There's no possible way that he's ever going to be able to top Brock Lesnar. And one thing that Paul Heyman said during this promo that really got my attention, because it's kind of what I felt like was needed to be said all for the last several months. It is no longer the WWE Championship. It doesn't belong to WWE. It doesn't belong to Triple H and the Authority. That championship belt is now the personal property of Brock Lesnar. And my feeling is that for the longest time, there should have been this storyline looming in the background that, yes, Brock Lesnar is the champion. He was the plan B for the Authority. But since that point, the Authority has had absolutely no influence over Brock Lesnar at all. Brock Lesnar comes and he goes as he pleases. He defends that belt against whoever he decides is fit enough to defend that belt against him. And if at any point Brock Lesnar just decided he wasn't going to play the game anymore with Triple H, he just walks off and does whatever with it. And WWE is up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, and what are they going to do? And that should have been, I thought, the real story with the Authority. Not all this bullshit with John Cena and a bunch of wrestlers getting fired after Survivor Series and all that. The issue should have been Brock Lesnar is not showing up for pay-per-views, not showing up for Raws, not defending that title, and all these wrestlers can't get a shot and move up, and Triple H created this problem. So what the fuck is Triple H and Stephanie going to do about it? I wonder if maybe we're going to get that after WrestleMania with this promo. But overall, I thought this was a really strong promo once again from Paul Heyman. What say you, Mr. Rob?
Well, of course, it was just an awesome promo, Kev. The scuttlebutt from Twitter seemed to be an argument whether or not, it was a shoot or not. I mean, you had a bit of a disagreement. I seem to think that it was mostly a work shoot. You seem to think that there was elements of a shoot contained within this promo, mostly centered around the mention of the UFC and the UFC title and unifying both belts. Especially seemed to kind of escalate in the promo after the microphone either died on Heyman yet again or was turned off for effect. I think it was turned off for effect, but that's me. Yeah. I'm skeptical. I've kind of seen it all as a wrestling fan, so I'm naturally kind of cautious when I call something a shoot. In my opinion, if they're saying it on television, in all likelihood, it's probably not a shoot, or at least some of it was greenlit, and maybe he took some
liberties,
privileges with, the go ahead to say whatever. But, I still felt like it didn't hurt the promo. It didn't distract from it. I felt like if there was an element of a shoot or an element of a work shoot, it didn't delve into that solely. It still focused on building up the match. And I thought that was the key.
Well, really the only shoot part about this is basically just addressing fans' comments online and in social media and what have you.
He had to tackle the elephant in the room. I think it was time, I think ignoring it was doing more harm than good. Go out with it. Kind of use the fact of, the Montreal screw job and kind of put that in people's minds and say, that's not what you're going to get here tonight. Kind of establish that, Brock's not losing that title. Reigns is going to have to kill him if he wants it. And I mean, that's what Heyman has to say. I thought he did an excellent job. And I thought, for whatever amount of shooting or work shoot that he was doing, I thought, unlike, some TNA usage and some other past usage in wrestling, I thought there was just enough elements without sidelining the storyline, which can happen sometimes when people try to do a work shoot.
Well, let's be perfectly clear here. Whenever we're trying to actually differentiate between work and shoot, the difference is work is whatever the wrestling company wants you to believe is going on, and a shoot is when a wrestler goes out there and intentionally exposes something going on backstage, whether or not a wrestling promotion wanted it to happen, and most of the time not. Shoots actually rarely happen in professional wrestling, and 99.9999999% of the time in WWE, it's never going to happen. Anything that even comes remote to sounding like it's Raw or a pipe bomb or whatever, I promise you, it was cleared by Vince McMahon first, and with a gentleman like Paul Heyman, he's gonna get pretty free reign on saying whatever he needs to get the reaction that WWE wants out of the crowd. And we've seen him work, we've seen him work it time and again.
I mean, I myself have given a few promos in, a setting, and I think only dozens. The one time I did shoot, usually you kind of telegraph that you're shooting so the person you're cutting the promo on is very clear that you're meaning what you say. Usually you'll say something like, I'm shooting from the hip, or something that basically gives away that you're saying something that you're not supposed to be saying. And I've done something like that. So usually it's kind of given away that if it is truly shoot, they'll say something cutesy like that somewhere in the promo, or I'm shooting tonight or something like that. And then usually from there, who knows what's going to come out of the person's mouth.
Yep, absolutely. So, kind of moving on into the show, our third match of the night was Big Show and Kane versus Eric Rowan and Ryback. Kind of a short...
Wow. I mean, I don't want to steal the thunder here, but whew, the crowd fell asleep during this match, Kev.
Yeah, they kind of did, because I'll be honest, it's Big Show and Kane. You know what kind of match they're going to get. It's Ryback.
And then they're against Ryback and Rowan on top of it.
And really, it's Eric Rowan. I'll be honest here.
The hot tag got zero reaction at all. I mean, the poor guy was out there, the crickets. I mean, every move he did, I mean, just sealed it home all the more that this guy is just not over, and they really need to send him back down.
No, I don't think they need to send him back down. They just need a way to switch up the gimmick. Cause I'll be honest, this Mensa level guy who doesn't really speak and wears this mask and comes out to, Asian style influenced music, it's just no buys. It is just no buys. And he was so much more interesting of a character when he was with Bray Wyatt.
It's a mixed character because the music still kind of feels Wyatt brother-ish, Wyatt family-ish. The sheep mask kind of represents the Wyatt, character.
Yeah, but he's a baby face.
It's just like some of the ancillary stuff that they did backstage is the only thing that really kind of split him from the Wyatt. I feel like, Harper, I mean, he hasn't made a big leap from like the Wyatt family, but I mean, I feel like he's moved farther away from it than Rowan has. And Bray, well, Bray's just Bray, but I mean, I just feel like you said, I mean, maybe he doesn't, but he definitely needs like a repackage or something different to do.
Yeah, what they really just need to do is they just need to make him a heel and leave him as a heel, just like they did with Luke Harper. And that's worked absolutely fine for Luke Harper. It would have worked fine for Eric Rowan as well, but
the interesting part about the match is that, the Big Show went to do the weapon of mass destruction to Rowan and accidentally hit Kane. And that's how Rowan actually picks up the win here in this matchup. So they're continuing the tension between Kane and Show here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it got so bad with their bickering back and forth the ring. Stephanie McMahon actually comes out and tells them, both of them, just shut the fuck up and get the fuck off my show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dig this, Kev. I mean, I know she's a heel. I get it.
Really?
But I just feel like this whole castrating of male people in her group or people on TV, it's just no buys, man. I mean, it just really sheds like these guys in a really wimpy light. Two giants, and she goes out there and bosses them around. I don't like it, man. I don't like it.
Well, if it was anybody else, like say Vicky Guerrero, absolutely doesn't work at all. But this is Stephanie McMahon. She is more or less a fourth generation wrestling promoter now. This is her business. She is McMahon, and she has always had this really strong persona about her character. I would be disappointed if she wasn't a real stern bitch about it. And she went out there and worked her business like a boss. But, I mean,
don't you feel like it gets her over more than it does the guys who are actually going to wrestle in her stead?
Maybe a little bit, but then again, Vince has never shied away from being the center of attention once in a while. And Stephanie's pretty much continuing on with that situation. I mean, really, if you just swap out Stephanie's body for Vince's body and put the same words to mouth, would it not be Vince McMahon?
I feel like Vince was a little bit more willing to kind of look the fool than Steph is. I mean, Steph predominantly comes out on top most occasions, whereas like when Vince had to get his ass whipped, Vince got his ass whipped.
Right, but it's still not it's still not acceptable in the WWE universe for a woman to get her whipped.
Well, no. Obviously, you couldn't do that.
Let's be honest. There's not going to be
other ways to get her upcomings.
Let's be honest. There is not going to be a Kimberly ever in the WWE. So, the only way that Stephanie McMahon ever gets her comeuppance like that is something cream puffy, like when Vicky threw her into, the pool of mud before Vicky left last year.
Do we even want to bring up the next part, Kev, or do we just want to bypass that?
Well, I mean, basically, very end of this, Stephanie tells them, "Get the hell out of here." Are you talking about the commercial?
The recap of the commercial, but I'm actually talking about Wiz Khalifa and Miz interacting and what happened after that.
Oh, come on, that was funny. It was really brief. They show the Mrs. Niagara medication commercial from last week, and then you show Ms. trying to suck up to Wiz Khalifa, and Wiz just kind of brushes him off and says, you know what? I don't think my character, you're going to be able to gel my business. And besides, I already found a WWE superstar, and it's Ms. Khalifa.
Yeah. Ugh.
And Miz announces that he is going to enter the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I guess this is probably going to signal an official split between them, and I think now is as good a time as any. And let's be honest, Mr. Sandow is talented enough. I thought he pulled this off just fine. Little cheesy, but that's okay.
I don't know, man. It was questionable jokes at best. I mean, I just don't like the white guy coming in wearing dreads and talking in slang. It's
No, come on.
Like one, blackface away from being just horribly racist. And I try not to be the PC police, but this made me squirm a little bit.
No, this is what he does, though. I mean, it would be entirely different if it was
somebody like completely out of the blue. No, I get you. I mean, maybe I'm just a little bit too sensitive about it.
I don't even think John Cena could pull this off. And he has more street cred as a rapper than, Mr. Sandow does, but still, I thought it went over okay. Now, the performance of one Mr. Wiz Khalifa, apparently, I must be in the minority here, because it seemed like the reaction online was, Wiz Khalifa sucks, the performance sucked, it all sucked, it just sucks. Which is what you kind of expect.
Wrestling fans, I want to see headlocks and arm bars. I want to see wrestling. No entertainment for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I've been a major fan of rap and hip hop all my life, and of course I'm friends with Stevie J, the owner of the Angry Marks Podcast Network, who also operates the original Hip Hop Lyrics Archives, and he has since he was a young man. And he also operates RapReviews.com, daily reviews on rap and hip hop music, and fabulous site. You should go visit there as well. I've been a longtime fan of rap and hip hop, and I've seen a lot of bad things and I've seen a lot of good things. And I'll be honest, I thought tonight's performance was really good. There's a lot of musical acts that come on Raw and they do their set and the fans just aren't into it. But, granted, it may have been a hometown crowd for Wiz Khalifa tonight, of course, being from Pittsburgh, but I thought the crowd was really into it. And
the crowd popped for when he sang Black and Yellow. I know you hate the song, but they legitimately popped for it right after he got done singing it. And then everybody on Twitter and all the comments I've seen were either flat out racist comments or trying to say that there was no reaction to him. And I didn't see that. I guess people just want to see it their way and they can't accept the fact that it doesn't fit into their little narrative. But I thought, for the second straight week in a row, somebody came on to Raw and actually performed above, what others have brought to the table. Any other live performance has gotten almost next to no reaction. And I felt like the crowd was at least moderately into most of this performance, especially when he sang Black and Yellow, because ostensibly most of us here in Pittsburgh look at it as he's singing about the Steeler colors, whereas the rapper says he was singing it about the car, but then in other interviews, he's also said that it's about the Steelers, so who knows. But for the most part, people here in Pittsburgh basically take it as he's singing about the Steeler colors, and that's why, the crowd was so into that song more than some of the others.
Well, still, overall, here's my take on it. The music was actually catchy. The crowd was reacting to it positively. I could understand the lyrics, and he was not lip syncing. That's like a 4 out of 4 on a Raw with a musical. And
he wasn't too bad when he actually sang. It wasn't just that he was rapping live. When he sang too, it wasn't too awful either.
Yeah. Overall, I felt it was a fine performance. It fit it. It really gave me a vibe of back in the early days of WCW Nitro. Remember when you would have DJ Run all up in your area and, playing the music at the breaks, and the Nitro girls would come out and dance, and occasionally you'd get a real good live music act along to it, and they would just fucking rock the crowd. Kind of got a little bit of that vibe. It got me a little bit excited. I'm like,
yeah, it did kind of. I agree. I think people are just a little too harsh on just about anything Raw, and even when something does kind of go off a little bit, well, So a lot of people were out there ready to just kind of pounce.
Yeah, and you know what? It kind of mixed it up because it was not yet another lame skit.
That's true. I thought it was a nice break. You know, we had kind of gotten consistent promos and action, and it was kind of something different, you know, like a variety show that Raw kind of can be sometimes, you know, but, you know, enough about that. We could get to the first Divas match of the night. You know, Paige and AJ were kind of seen backstage.
Yes.
They were doing kind of like a weird kind of tease, like where AJ was skipping, and then Paige would kind of rush along to catch up so that she could stay even with her. That was kind of like a weird quasi-frenemy thing that they're continuing from their feud. And then we went to commercial break, and then when we came back, for no reason at all, Eva and Cameron were ringside with Summer Rae, and AJ was out there with Paige.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably has something to do with Total Divas, which I totally don't watch at all and totally don't care about. But overall, this was an okay match. It was kind of short. But AJ Lee gets the win with the Black Widow out of almost nowhere. Went over good for me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this match wasn't too bad. Again, you know, it was a little bit shorter than the SmackDown match me and Justin talked about this past Thursday. But I felt like there wasn't as much of sloppiness. There was that one tiny little sloppy neck breaker from AJ. But other than that, like, Paige actually kind of pounded the mat and kind of woke the crowd up here during a Divas match and got them kind of chanting for AJ, which I thought was interesting. And then she hit the Black Widow out of nowhere and won.
Yep. So overall, okay match. It still continues to put over this storyline. Of course, the big thing is now is, first of all, you can catch the Bella Twins in the new Flintstones cartoon, which will be released on DVD tomorrow. And
there will be no buys.
I think it'll get some buys.
For kids, maybe.
Kids and maybe some adults that want to relive a little bit of their youth there. I mean, I'll be honest, I was not expecting the Scooby-Doo relaunch that WWE did to be very successsul, and that actually went super damn well.
Speaking of cartoons kind of revived, I'm sure you're a bit older than me, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Redux that is on like Cartoon Network nowadays, really, really excellently done. One of the few revives that have actually kind of captured the original's magic.
I will have to try to catch that sometime. And
this is a random review out of nowhere.
Well, that's kind of good to know because I haven't seen the movie, so I don't really know how well that was done.
No, the movie's awful. Don't watch the movie.
Okay.
Because,
I mean, watching the trailers, I was kind of doubtful. I mean, I loved the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I liked the second one. The third one, it just completely fell off the face of the earth.
Well, anytime you do back in time stuff, you know you're out of ideas.
Well, and I've kind of seen some of the relaunches of the cartoon as well, and that just kind of got into some weird territory from me. Of course, I understand, of course, that the original cartoon that we watched, was a lot more camp than the original comic book. But still, you know, I just kind of haven't been on fire for the franchise since I was like 11. I think my days of supporting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ended about the time I started to do the Bartman.
Wow. I think we're the only two people that know what the Bartman is, Kev.
I'm sure there's a couple of others, but
the Sting. What did you think about the Sting promo? You know, I didn't write down word for word what he said. Basically, the only thing I noticed is that for whatever reason they altered the voice in majority of the promo.
I don't know what the fuck to think about this because really I am not supportive of these two men wrestling, Triple H and Sting. So if they're not going to do a wrestling match at WrestleMania, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, but I've had absolutely no interest in this at all since I've been hearing about it, not watching Raw. I only started watching Raw again last week just because I was absolutely bored to tears, but even what I saw last week, still don't give a fuck. I don't know what they're doing. I kind of completely glazed over. I have no idea what Sting said. I don't remember.
I mean, basically he said, like, he didn't walk away from the fact that he disappeared for 14 years. He actually admitted to that. So he basically buried TNA himself. Just no surprise. But, a lot of it was kind of like, I'm the Avenger. I'm here because there's an injustice. You use your power for evil. I'm going to take you down. Babyface stuff. But what was the weirdest part, Kev, for me is I know what Sting's voice sounds like. You know what Sting's voice sounds like. There's a few times where he would say a certain thing, and for whatever reason, his real voice would be let through the filter that they ran it through. I'm not sure why they did that, but a few times, I don't know if you noticed it, but a few times, like, his real voice kind of came through.
Again, no, because I completely glazed over. I wasn't hearing anything interesting. I didn't even notice that there was any difference in his voice, but apparently a lot of people did, so I don't know.
Yeah, a few times he, one time he yelled, and that was straight Sting, regular Sting came through. They didn't filter that at all. And then he said something else where it was straight up Sting in his regular voice. And then the rest of it was all filtered, I don't know what they were going through. I don't know why if you're gonna let Sting talk, just let him talk.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was the fucking franchise of WCW for most of his career, and then he was, one of the main anchors of TNA wrestling for, 2006, 6, 7, 8 years. So, I think he knows what the fuck he's doing, so just let him talk. Although I
think the biggest controversy coming out of Raw will be the fact that he said that he failed to save WCW, and they showed pictures of the NWO. Now, I mean, some people were going to shit on this, but I kind of dug this a little bit, Kev, because, I mean, in reality, Hogan, Bischoff, Nash, and are big pieces as to why WCW did die.
I don't know. It's always controversial, but we've done many a podcast over the years, and not just us, but plenty of other places as well.
I know. I'm just saying, I kind of like that part of. I mean, a lot of people are gonna have a problem with the fact that they made Sting admit that he failed WCW. But, I kind of like the fact that they kind of subtly put in the reality of the fact that, some egos got in the way and brought WCW down. I thought it was one of the very few instances of WWE admitting that they didn't single-handedly kill WCW, that WCW kind of killed themselves.
Yeah, possibly. But I said,
I don't know if you've watched Monday Night War, but I mean, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
I mean, WWE goes out of their way to say that they killed them because they were the good guys and WCW were the bad guys. I mean, they almost never admit the flaws that brought down WCW. So, I mean, I was really surprised that they even hinted at it in the build to this matchup. But the next part was, Rusev backstage. He ran into Cena. Cena basically dared him to, badmouth America and that he would go out there and whoop his ass. And then we went to commercial break and you can pick up from there, Kev.
Not much to talk about because he came out and Curtis Axel challenged him on SmackDown last week, and this was literally Rusev punches him into the corner before the bell and then hits him with a super kick and an accolade, and that's it. What do we do? Vince, what do we do with Curtis Axel here? Really?
Again, another character that I felt like did a lot with something that he was given and isn't really being rewarded for his efforts.
No, absolutely not. Curtis Axel is a fine young man. He is a fine wrestler. Why are we sticking with if we're gonna make him a mid-carder, fine. He can be a mid-carder. I don't have a problem with that. He doesn't have to be he doesn't have to live up to his father. He doesn't have to live up to his grandfather. He's gonna have a much longer WWE career than either of them put together. So I don't have a problem with how they're using him as a mid-carder, but these stupid fucking gimmicks have just gotta stop. They ain't doing nothing. I don't care if they ain't doing nothing for him. It ain't doing nothing for the audience, and that's my problem with this. Axelmania is running wild. Fucking bullshit. It's just stop. Just stop. And I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Rusev just grabs the mic afterwards. He intentionally talks shit about America again. This, of course, draws out John Cena. John Cena just completely cleans his fucking clock, refuses to let go of the STF until Lana gives him a title match at WrestleMania, and there you go. John Cena's got his match.
Yep. The worst kept secret in the history of mankind. Again, they set up another Mania match that we've known was going to happen for weeks. I felt like the storytelling here, Kev, was a little bit mishandled here. I didn't think they did a good job from the announcer's perspective of selling the fact that Cena was putting him in that hole to put pressure on Lana to give him the match. It was kind of Lana gave him the match, and then they kind of retroactively said that that's why Cena was doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, that was the only thing that drove me nuts about this, is that I felt like they kind of went a little bit backwards.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not going to complain too much. Had a couple of matches come up after this, and I kind of like how they really planned all these out. Our sixth match of the night was New Day, which is Woods and Big E against the tag team champions, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. Fairly short match. New Day gets the win after Tyson Kidd gets rolled up.
Yeah, but again, the crowd kind of took a nap here during this match. I thought, it wasn't too bad of a match.
No.
This is one of the few times I've seen Xavier Woods in the ring since he first debuted. Since he came off his injury, I guess they're going to allow him to wrestle again.
Yeah.
And basically, as soon as they did this, Kev, I was like, I wonder why they gave New Day the victory. And then we would find out, because we got like 3 straight tag matches in a row.
Yeah, and like I said, I like how they structured this, because after Kidd and Cesaro lost, they stayed out there while Natalya had a wrestling match with Naomi, and the Usos were there. And again, kind of a brief match. But Natty misses on her discus clothesline. Naomi hits the rear view, gets the win.
Yeah, I mean, I for a short little Divas match, there wasn't really a whole lot to write home about. But I felt like, for the storyline purposes of showing, not only did the tag champions lose, but so did Natty, kind of continued the puzzling continuation of Natty not always seeing eye to eye with Tyson. Not quite like I said on SmackDown, Kev, I'm not sure where they're going with this. I'm not sure if they want to babyface Natty and move her away from the team, or if they want to heal her up and they're just kind of dragging their feet. This whole thing is a bit of a mess. And, I mean, it continued to be a mess because, I mean, the Usos came out with, Naomi, and they went right into a tag match with the Matadors.
Yeah, I kind of liked what happened here at the end of that, though. Natty loses, and she starts slapping on Kidd and takes his title belt away. And she's like, "This belt's mine now." And she starts
that was interesting. And then Cesaro was like, "Go get your belt, man."
Yeah, he's like, "Quit being a pussy. Go get your belt from your woman." And they walk up, but then out comes Los Matadores, and then all of a sudden, Natty passes the title off and is like, "Act like a man here. Be tough against them." And it's Los Matadores. I mean, Los Matadores doesn't get a lot of respect, but they got respect tonight in this match because thanks to some slight interference from from Torito, it is Los Matadores who gets the win over the Usos. So,
Kev, here's the question. Are they setting up another multi-person match clusterfuck here?
I hope not.
I strongly feel that they are building towards a multi-team tag team title match.
Maybe not at WrestleMania. Maybe they do it at WrestleMania. I don't think the tag titles get on the card this year.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they'll be on the main card, but I'm saying I have a strong feeling here that they're building up to like this being like maybe the pre-match.
I don't know if they do it either, but I could see them maybe doing this like the night after Raw, or maybe on the next pay-per-view. I see it coming down the line. Here's what I want to know. New Day gets a win. Los Matadores gets a win. When do we have these two face each other for the first to be cleaned out post-WrestleMania, pack their bags, and go home?
I mean, that's what I'm worried about, Kev. I mean, Yeah, I'm worried that's what they're building to with this whole tag team, because it feels very much like the IC title feuds kind of started out, like where they're kind of, making sure that all the teams kind of interact and kind of building kind of animosity between all of them. I can just kind of see the same similar build that they did for the IC belt. That's the only thing that got me worried.
Yeah, I can definitely share in that worry.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. Bray continued his whole, teasing the come find him promos that he's been doing throughout most of Raw.
Yeah, he's been teasing this, he's been trying to egg Undertaker into a fight. He's now got Undertaker's urn. He finally brings it out to the ring, does his usual promo, and his promos are always beautiful, and they're weird, and they go strange places, but you're just along for this ride, and you just kind of enjoy it. What I really liked here was right towards the end, he breaks open the urn, and he shows everybody that it's empty, and he makes a point of saying, see, here's what you say is your power, but as we can all see, it's just an empty, hollow shell of its former self, just like you, Undertaker.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like they were kind of used. I mean, if you're old enough to kind of be familiar with Taker, they kind of used your expectation as soon as he opened that urn, the smoke was going to go off in his face, and they kind of didn't give it to you, and you're kind of like, oh, well, this is interesting. And then I thought his promo tonight was really, really good, except for the slight hiccup that he had when he said WrestleMania somewhere earlier in the promo. I mean, it's rare for Bray to slip up, but I mean, it was kind of noticeable. But other than that, the promo delivered, and it built and built and built and built. And then, Kev, why don't you inform us where it built to?
Oh, I mean, it was just special effects city after that. I mean, he's showing off the urn, he sets it down, and then all of a sudden the urn starts smoking, the arena goes dark, you hear the Undertaker's music, you see the lighting flashing and the cracks of lightning on the Titan tongue. Undertaker basically proclaims, WrestleMania, you will rest in peace. And then, kind of the piece de resistance of Undertaker WrestleMania promos. The lightning bolt strikes out of the ceiling and hits the middle of the ring, this time setting Bray Walker? No, not Braden Walker.
Wow, we just went back in time real quick.
That may be the only undefeated winning streak left in WWE. Braden Walker, undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. The lightning bolt hits Bray Wyatt's chair and sets it on fire, and Bray Wyatt just goes insanely happily crazy that it happened.
I don't know if you noticed, but did they do another I Accept Your Challenge at WrestleMania, video package on the screen, and that the cameraman did get a good shot of it?
There was a message on the Titantron, and it pretty much said WrestleMania, the man comes around, but that was kind of it.
Okay, I couldn't make out what it said because they didn't really get a great shot of it, and I couldn't make out what it said. I was wondering what it said myself, so.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so they basically kind of stole the Sting gimmick and kind of gave it to Taker for a moment.
Well, I mean, Taker's kind of done this for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's Taker's gimmick too. So, I mean, that's the only kind of thing about it is having Taker and Sting not in a match with each other is they both kind of have very similar characters. So, there's going to be some spillover where there's some, eeriness or some creepiness to the builds, and they kind of are going to kind of take away from each other or kind of have a similar vibe.
Yeah. Possibly. I'm not looking, I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to this match at all. Of course, lots of people are because, it's Undertaker. And if Bray Wyatt's character had been around 5 years earlier, I would be insanely ecstatic for this match. But I really think, I mean, the rumors are going around that Undertaker is really in shape and he's in the best shape that he's been in the last several years.
Yeah, but they say that every year.
Well, I mean, last year it was really fucking noticeable that he fucking wasn't. And that's why I've come to not like Undertaker at WrestleMania, because it's the only time he shows up, and when he shows up, I mean, I mean, he just looks horrible, and I feel bad for him. And
Yeah,
I don't
like-
want to feel bad for anybody on WrestleMania because you should be feeling good about everybody. It should be the absolute best, and I really don't think The Undertaker has been able to deliver his best work, and it's not been the best matches in WWE. And I think too many people are just blinded by the fact that it's Undertaker. And they refuse to be objective and step back and really take a look at the match and that he's done. And I think it's going to be bad, and I'm not expecting that it's going to be any better this year. So,
I mean, he really should have walked away after the two HBK matches. I mean, I know the two Triple H matches were awful, but I mean, that was an absolute peak, way above where his performance should have been for his age. That would have been the ideal way to go out, and like most wrestlers, he just couldn't walk away.
well, and some of it may have also been Vince wouldn't let him walk away from it either. I'll agree. The two matches with HBK were not his best matches, but they were not bad matches by far. But it was really the peak of his popularity, and I think it was pretty much the peak of HBK's popularity as well.
Oh, I disagree there, Kev. I mean, I think those two, especially the first HBK and Taker match, is about as close to a 5-star match as I've seen. Except for maybe WrestleMania 3 Savage versus Steamboat.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen better, but there's plenty of room of argument for there. But my point was, at that point, both of them were pretty much as popular and over as they would ever be, and that's where they should have left it for their whole careers, right there and done. And Shawn Michaels did. And that is forever going to be his legacy, and that's what we're going to remember. Instead, what a lot of people are going to end up remembering, it was a couple of years later where Triple H and Undertaker are having to slowly beat each other to death with chairs.
Yeah, and then, of course, him versus Brock, where he really, I mean, besides the storyline, I mean, he did look slow, did look beat, did look like an old man.
Yeah,
his age finally did show.
An absolute credit to Brock Lesnar here, ladies and gentlemen, for his first WrestleMania back since he left the company. And we all remember how Brock Lesnar left the company. He left the company flipping off the crowd. 2 double stumps for every fucking body in a match against another guy with 2 double stumps for everybody, and neither of them really wanted to wrestle this match at all, and it really took Steve Austin beating the shit out of both of them to get that match over, and even then, it was just a steaming stink pile. But that was a much younger, immature Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar came back last year and worked this match perfectly with Undertaker to his match, and got the best match out of Undertaker. I don't think anybody else could have gotten a better match out of Undertaker than what Brock Lesnar did last year. So I don't think Bray Wyatt is talented enough or experienced enough yet to be able to do that with Undertaker. So like I said, I'm not expecting a great match here. But speaking of matches and double stumps, main event time, ladies and gentlemen. Roman Reigns.
And we were going into the main event at 11:03, Kev.
Yep. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, 2-on-1 match. And this really didn't last much long either, because it was pretty much Reigns and Rollins tearing it down for several minutes until J&J Security tries to come out and interfere in the match. Referee throws him out, or Rollins tells him to get the fuck out of here. Then Rollins starts to get beat down. He needs the hot tag from Randy Orton, and nope, not happening.
Yeah, I mean, he took a step back, and I love the way Rollins played it. He kind of was like, come on, man, now's not the time to joke, come on, and he was kind of like, he was really, really hoping that this wasn't happening, because he had previously chased away J&J Security. He was basically out there with Randy Orton all by himself. And I mean, he was really hoping that, Randy Orton was just playing another trick. But, this was, finally, Orton, gonna take, Rollins to the woodshed here.
Yes, finally. really this match was not so much about the match, but what happened afterwards. 3 months of retribution in the making right here. Orton just absolutely snaps on Rollins, tells him, you didn't think I was going to react. You didn't think I was going to get my revenge. Just absolutely ridiculed him, slapped him around like a bitch, just like Randy Orton said he wanted to do. And there was nobody there to save. Rollins is he eats the DDT. He eats the RKO through the announcer's table. The kid was just killed. And
so my question, there is, was the Orton face turn a week or two too late?
No, really the face turn was right before Orton had to disappear to go make his movie.
I know, but actually launch. A lot of people criticize WWE's writers for not just instantly bringing him back and having him RKO right away.
Well,
do you agree with kind of the semi-slow burn on this?
I think it should have happened at the January Royal Rumble. I think Orton should have come back then and did a run in and absolutely destroyed Rollins then. But they didn't want Randy Orton to be the story. And most absolutely he would have been the story. And if he had been the story, I think it would have saved the Rumble. But they didn't pull the trigger then. They didn't pull it at Fastlane either. But it was just a matter of time. You knew they were going to do it. And unlike WWE's hesitation to pull the trigger at the right time with Daniel Bryan, there's no consequence for not pulling the trigger sooner with Randy Orton, because eventually his time is going to come, and it came tonight, and I think it'll all work out absolutely fine.
And my other question is, do you think he got way too much retribution, on this run of Raw to where it takes some heat away from the match at Mania?
I don't think it's going to take anything away from Mania, because there's definitely, Randy Orton's got more in the tank, that's for sure.
Yeah, but typically, the way WWE has kind of built us to expect, the normal build, the heel does something dastardly, babyface comes back, and then, they kind of tease, and they hold off the absolute ass kicking for the pay-per-view match, where they kind of gave the, absolute, taking out to the woodshed beating, on free television. I think, it's better this way, but I'm just trying to be a devil's advocate here. Do you think that they gave too much away, or do you feel like, because it is kind of on the undercard, that they could kind of do this much with it because it's not as important of a match?
I think it's not only that they can do it because it's going to be lower down on it, but I think they can also do that simply for the fact that it's Randy Orton. If it was, John Cena could do that, Randy Orton can do that. I'm not sure if they could really get away with that with anybody else on the roster right now, but where Randy Orton is pretty much relatively fresh, it especially works. It's going to work out fine.
Yeah, and like you said, you think this is kind of like an indicator that Rollins might go over at Mania?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely certain Rollins is going to go over at Mania, because there's no reason to put Randy Orton over at Mania. Mania is where stars are made, and Randy Orton doesn't need to be made a star again. He's already a star. He's going to be a near instant Hall of Famer for sure once he steps away from the business. So, now is the time to really make Seth Rollins important. I'm predicting Seth Rollins gets a win over Randy Orton. It's definitely not going to be easy. It's probably going to be just by the skin of his teeth, but it's going to be a brutal drag out fight, and Rollins is just going to barely get the win.
So did they do anything on tonight's Raw, Kev, that, as somebody that doesn't watch Raw every week, sell you to buy Mania?
I'm still kind of sitting and waiting, to be honest. I probably will go ahead and order Mania just because it's Mania. And I think WWE hopes that a lot of people will do exactly that. I kind of like how they finally officially put Cena versus Rusev on. I like how they did it. So that kind of works for me. And I imagine that's just going to be a real slobber knocker of a match as well. They're just doing this good slow build though. The main thing that they're really trying to sell with that is Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, and I think by now you're either bought into it or you're probably not going to buy into it at all. I don't think there's too many people really sitting on the fence for that match.
For me, I have a kind of a car wreck mentality for that match. If it goes wrong, I kind of want to be there just to see how wrong it goes. With Lesnar maybe rumored to leave, you don't know if the crowd's going to turn on him. You don't know if Reigns is really ready. Lesnar isn't on the level of Daniel Bryan. He doesn't wrestle full time. Can he pull out a good match for Reigns? I mean, there's a lot of elements that could go horribly wrong there. I'm not really interested in the Sting Triple H match. I'm not a big Sting mark. I just didn't watch WCW that much. I'm more of a WWF kid. Always have been and kind of always will be. So I don't really have a whole lot invested in that match. Basically, most of my interest in the Mania is the fact that it is WrestleMania and I know I'm going to at least see like one really good match. But it seems to be that the IC title match is going to be kind of the match for me to kind of get excited about, even though they are throwing too many people into it. They kind of alluded to that there was like a mystery entry into the match, which by the end of the night, I thought it was pretty clear that Stardust and Bryan are in the match now. Definitely. But I kind of worry about that multi-tag team tag match. If they throw that onto the pay-per-view with the Battle Royal, with the IC title, I just think that's 3 matches to have a lot of people in them just to get them the WrestleMania payday. And I feel like that takes away, a lot from those 3 matches. It kind of kills it for me. I mean, whatever happened to the day where if you're not a big star, you just don't make the Mania payday. I mean, I don't understand why everybody has to get a Mania payday.
Yeah, I'll agree. I mean, that many people in the IC match on top of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, that is a lot of people.
And then, like I said, I mean, if I'm wrong, I mean, then I'll be wrong. But I mean, I just felt like they were clearly hinting that maybe that tag match. So that would be 3 matches with, many, many multiples of people in it. And I just feel like that's just too much. And so that's overkill because you know what those matches are going to be, because they're going to be a spot fest. And I'm not saying that spot fest can't be good, but 3 of them on like one show. I mean,
yeah, that's why I'm not expecting the tag team titles to even be on the pre-show here because there's so much stuff already going on. It's just not necessary. So
I hope so, Kev. I hope so. But from my vantage point, I'm buying Mania because it is Mania. I feel it's like the one pay-per-view every wrestling fan should buy. I mean, maybe we should stop rewarding WWE by saying that when they book stuff this, not as well. But I mean, I feel like there's some things that they're doing right booking wise, but I don't care about the individuals. I'm not invested in individuals, like, even though they're trying to tell an intricate story. I mean, they haven't really done anything super wrong. It's just, I don't really care for Sting. I don't really think Reigns deserves to be in the spot he's in. I mean, so I really don't have a lot invested.
Well, I mean, you can argue about whether or not, Reigns is really ready, but let's be honest, who else?
Daniel Bryan.
No, he's done. They completely fucked that up. He's damaged goods. That ship is never going to sail.
I understand that. CM Punk, had they not, pissed him off to the point where he left, lots of people could be in that spot besides anybody but him. I mean,
no, seriously.
Dean Ambrose. I mean, once upon a time, before they kind of put him in the IC thing, and they kind of cooled him off with that Bray feud, he was really hot there for a hot minute.
No, let's be honest. WWE has really worked hard to build up Roman Reigns for this spot ever since he came in.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. From the get-go. I mean, that's why they put him with Shield, to cover up his flaws. So that, they could say, well, hey, he's been on the roster for like 3 years. I don't understand why you guys are saying he's not ready. Never mind the fact that prior to the Rumble, he had maybe a handful of single matches. Going into WrestleMania, he's going to have well under 10. single matches, television. I mean, I don't count house shows because I just can't follow the reports. But I mean, for the most part, maybe he's had like maybe 10 to 20 matches, single matches, and to expect him to carry that spot is just asking a lot.
Well, I mean, but at this point, there's really nobody else, in my opinion, that's better for it as far as character-wise set up, ready to do it. And my prediction is going to be, it doesn't matter who it is, they're going to fall to Brock Lesnar anyway. So.
Oh, you think Lesnar's keeping the belt?
Yeah, my prediction for the last couple of months is that Lesnar keeps the belt. He re-signs with WWE, and we get a hell of a run out of him for the next year.
I just don't know if they'll do that, Kev. I mean, because then who they would defeat to him after that? Because I mean, they've built Roman Reigns to be kind of like a Rusev. Well, I mean, after I just they can't do Cena again that soon. Orton, I guess.
They could do Cena. They could do Orton. Don't forget, Seth Rollins still has to do something with Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah, but I was assuming you meant that Lesnar's going to keep the belt and Rollins wasn't going to cash it in.
Well, he's not going to. He's not going to cash it in at WrestleMania, but he's still got until June to do something with that briefcase. So I could very easily see it. John Cena gets a shot again. He wrestles. Whoever wins that match gets the title, but they've so beat the shit out of each other. Rollins goes and cashes it in.
I mean, I see it as an inevitability. Once they gave the Fastlane win to Rollins, and the way that they've tried to rehab his being a babyface, they've tried so hard. I just think it's inevitable that he is, that old saying, once a babyface makes a promise, they almost rarely ever fail. I mean, Reigns has pretty much promised that he's going to beat Lesnar for the title. I just don't see WWE not going all this way only to not give him the belt.
That's okay. Failure builds character. And what we need out of Roman Reigns more than anything is building character. Last week I made a comment that wins matter, and wins do, because wins build character as well. You can't build character on loss after loss after loss. You have to be progressing towards something. So, Roman Reigns win tonight over Seth Rollins, that builds towards something. But he's going to have a big loss, and he's not really had a big loss. So, that time I think has definitely come for Rollins.
You have more faith in WWE than I do.
Well, there is that. I mean, WWE these days rarely fails to not let me down. If you can understand that double negative. I just thought of the path. The path going forward here. Lesnar retains at WrestleMania. Orton gets the title shot. Orton wins. Rollins cashes in Money in the Bank on him. Boom. Lesnar's out of the picture. The feud for 2015 is right there. Orton and Rollins.
It's a pretty safe prediction. I mean, they do like to kind of go into those post-Manias, kind of re-establishing, Mania feuds. So, I mean, that's a really good possibility if they want to keep that feud going.
And I think they definitely can get that feud going because, first Randy Orton, I think, loses at WrestleMania. Then he loses the belt to Seth Rollins through a Edge-style screw job. Oh, yeah. By SummerSlam, they're going to be white-hot piss.
I like that. Before we go, Kev, I don't know how we want to do this for this plug here.
Well, you got something you wanted to plug? Plug away.
Okay, man. Mick Foley sent out a thing on Twitter. He actually sent it out probably 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. It's like a charity fundraiser he's doing where he's selling kind of like raffle tickets for, I believe you have to buy a pair of 5. It'd be like $10. It's like $2 per ticket. But I guess most of the proceeds, I don't want to say all, but most of the proceeds are going towards RAIN, which if you're not familiar with RAIN, it's basically against, women who get raped and, child abuse, rape situations and child abuse and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a network for people like that to reach out to report, things happening to them and stuff like that, and, you know, moral support and stuff like that, which he always has done work with, you know, going all the way back to, like, when he wrote his books and stuff like that. And I think it's a neat little thing that they're doing. It's close and personal to my heart, and I would really appreciate, you know, I believe you said Stevie was going to post, like, a news story about it, so I'm guessing that the link will be somewhere within that news story.
Yeah, just to make it clear, RAIN is the acronym for the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. Mick Foley has been a spokesperson for them for several years now, very involved with their charity work and fundraising. They're an absolute great organization, so...
I'm not super in love with the name, but, I mean, for what they fight for is awesome.
Right. What they do is, you know, is absolutely great, and it's an unfortunate necessary thing that's kind of needed. So if you got a few dollars, definitely go donate towards that. If you don't find it online tonight, then the Tuesday morning story will include Mick Foley's comments on that and a link to participate in the raffle. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that, Kev. Anything else you want to do before we get out of here?
We will do plugs for the other shows on the Angry Marks Podcast Network, and if you will give me just a second, I will go and look up and see if I can remember who is on tomorrow night's episode of the Undisputed Wrestling Show. And if my memory serves me correctly, in the first hour, we are going to have former WWE star Domino Cliff Compton for the first hour.
Okay.
No reaction?
Well, is that the one that's related to Snuka, or is that the other one?
No, that's Duchesne.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the adopted son of Jimmy Snuka. Cliff
Okay,
Domino.
I get the two confused because they did look relatively close when they were doing the gimmick.
Yeah, Cliff Compton is the more talented of the two, in my opinion. You formerly with WWE, he also had a fairly decent run in Ring of Honor a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago as well. But we'll be interviewing him in the first hour. Second hour, we are going to have independent star Poison Apollo Star interviewing as well, and fans will be able to learn more about him as well. And just to give you an extra treat, later this weekend, we are scheduled to sit down with an interview with the Blueprint, Matt Morgan. So,
okay, that'll be interesting here, because, I mean, he kind of walked away from wrestling because he found a job doing something else. So, I mean, I wonder how much he's going to be willing to talk about it.
From what I understand, it's pretty much the door is wide open. So he had a little bit of time, and he agreed to sit down with us. So
well, he doesn't have a lot of people to protect then. I mean, if he's completely out and he doesn't think he's coming back, then I mean, he's going to be pretty honest, I would think.
Well, I mean, what I found with Undisputed Wrestling Show is most of the guys are fairly honest about a lot of things anyway, but, you know, they're, at the same time, they're still going to be somewhat protective of the business. Most of the time, they don't dish a lot of real dirt out there unless it's something that's already been known for years. So, you know, and if it's particularly out there and particularly noteworthy, you know, they will discuss it. And most of the time, they won't do it in a dish. They won't do it dirty or anything. But Matt Morgan is definitely going to have some stories to tell about his career and everything that he's been involved in, some of his angles, stuff like that. So we're definitely going to get a good interview out of him. No doubt about that. I'll do some additional plugs for him in the next couple of weeks. We're scheduled to have Nightmare Danny Davis on the show. The crippled superstar heroes, Zach Gowen and Gregory Iron, are going to be with us. They are now tag teaming together on the Independents. We're scheduled to have the Boogeyman on with us, headliner Chris Michaels, independent star Bobby Blaze, and Mike Smith. Looking into April, the Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacobs will be coming back on Angry Marks Podcast Network. We've got Trina Michaels scheduled as well. And
that should be interesting.
And then, looks like the rest, we've got Grin and Barrett rescheduled. He was supposed to interview a couple of weeks ago. During the horrible snowstorm, we couldn't get through to his phone lines. We've got him rescheduled. And independent star Trip Cassidy. So that's who we've got lined up on Undisputed Show coming in the next couple of weeks. Every Tuesday night, 9 p.m., right here on AngryMarks.com. Wednesday evenings, we have Glove Up or Shut Up with Stevie J and Peter H. covering everything in mixed martial arts. If you're a fan of UFC, of course, UFC is doing something almost all the time, but there's more than UFC out there, of course. You've got Bellator. We've got recent news of Bellator filing lawsuit against a former UFC star who apparently has broken his contract, Rampage Jackson. So there's going to be some talk about that. We'll catch up with the latest news of lauded light heavyweight champion Ronda Rousey. We'll talk about some of the other promotions as well. World Series of Fighting, Bama, of course, and all the great MMA promotions that you can catch out there these days. We talk about it every Wednesday evening. Glove Up or Shut Up, available for live download. Thursday night, we will have Thursday Night AMP at 9 p.m. with Stevie J and Jordan Garber, covering everything in pro wrestling that we have not yet gotten to. And then afterwards, we may or may not be able to schedule an episode of the SmackDown Rundown. If not, we will try to get that in on Friday night. And then also Friday night at 11 p.m., we will be recording the Impact Implosion with Seth Draken and Mike Pullen to cover everything in TNA Wrestling, and Over the Top Radio 9 p.m. on Friday with Ed in San Antonio, Craig and Cottrell. And that will pretty much wrap up our podcast schedule for the week.
All right. If for whatever reason you should want to hear my thoughts on things, I do have a Twitter at RobTheMany. Pretty easy to find. I don't use it that often though, so don't expect a lot of updates. You'll see an influx of comments during football season, and maybe if I'm watching the network or I'm watching Raw, I'll usually make comments, snarky comments here and there. But for the most part, I don't really use it that much.
So football, some interesting news has come up today. Well, we got a few more minutes left, so we'll just talk about it real quick. Indomitius Sue, no longer with the Lions, signed a 6-year, $114 million deal with the Miami Dolphins. I was trying to think of which damn D team I was thinking of, and they really are kind of a D team. The Miami Dolphins.
How much of that was guaranteed there, Kev?
I don't know.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I didn't follow up that close with it. I just kind of saw it.
Oh, okay.
And the first thoughts that kind of went through my mind is, dear God, he is going to emaciate Tom Brady next year.
There's one problem with that.
What's that?
Last year, the Dolphins played a 3-4 defense. The Ndamukong Suh has predominantly played a 4-3 defense.
You think if they're bringing in Ndamukong Suh, I'm sure they're going to try to build a defense around him.
Well, luckily for them, the defense, they have Cameron Wake, who, when he was first brought in from the Canadian Football League, ran a 4-3. They had recently converted to 3-4 under the previous GM reign. And so, they still have some pieces that fit the 4-3. So I think the conversion won't be as bad as some other conversions, but I would expect them to go to 4-3 and maybe even do what a lot of teams are just starting to do now, which is kind of run multiple fronts throughout the game to kind of throw different looks at the team. A lot of teams are now running 3-4 sometimes, running 4-3s and cover 2s and etc. And they're kind of trying to throw multiple looks at different people.
Yeah, absolutely. Monday Night Yawn in the chat room just commented, hey Kevin, Rob, you still need to have an offense in Miami.
Well, yeah. They have no wide receivers right now, Kev, because they basically released everybody, and they're still trying to offload Mike Wallace. And basically, they still don't quite know what they have at Tannehill. But defense was already pretty good in Miami. I think Ndamukong makes the defense even better. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do the wide receiver position. If they do something decent, then they might have a shot at contending.
Maybe so. And I think with all the talk you just laid down, I think we found our new correspondent on Thursday Night AMP to talk football this fall.
Oh my God, I'm like a fanatic when it comes to football. I get sucked into fantasy football pretty diehard every year, and I follow it pretty religiously. I will admit, by the end of the season, I'm a little burnt out on football because I literally watch every game. But for the first 10 weeks, I'm pretty into it.
Well, there we go. And in the meanwhile, I'm just going to make a joke, and Ndamukong Suh is going to go for Tom Brady's balls. We're going to have Deflategate Part 2 and a new rule by the end of the season that I am going to call the Tom Brady Wiener Tuck.
Yeah, that joke was just so bad, Kev.
I admit it. It was good. It was so good. San Francisco Giants. Hello. Wrong sport. I don't even watch it. 49ers. Are they even going to be able to field a team at this point?
You know, I mean, with the coach gone, you kind of wonder what the team's going to look like. I mean, they still have some pieces that made that defense, work, but some of the pieces, are kind of leaving. I mean, that's the trouble with, the NFL salary cap, is that once you get a good team, it's very, very hard to hold the pieces together, as the Seahawks will find out, because they have to re-sign Russell Wilson to a mega contract. And
they will.
That's going to make it harder for them to re-sign any pending free agents.
Yeah, and but San Francisco, I mean, they just had 2 players pretty much announce they're retiring. Colin Kaepernick rumored to possibly be going to the Eagles, maybe not. I mean, who the hell knows what they're doing?
I'm kind of surprised to hear that, but I mean, basically Kaepernick was kind of Harbaugh's pick, so. I mean, if I was a coach and I was the GM and I had problems with, Harbaugh, I didn't really like him, that might have been what their feud was over. Maybe the GM didn't really like Kaepernick that much. Harbaugh felt more strongly about him, took Kaepernick, hoping for the best. Kaepernick seemed to be a good quarterback and then kind of fell back to earth post his 2 NFC championship runs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, over in Denver, my favorite, Peyton Manning, takes a $4 million shave so that his teammates can stay on.
I mean, what else is the guy going to do? I mean, pretty much, basically, I listen to a lot of radio shows, Kev. My favorite one is Dan Le Batard's show, not to pump anybody else's stuff, but in my opinion, it's the best podcast out there. And they made a joke about how, basically, the $4 million that Peyton Manning's giving up is basically the bonus that he would have gotten had he gotten the team to the Super Bowl. So basically, he's refunding the money that he got for his AFC championship run because he didn't get the team to the Super Bowl, which is why he's there.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'll definitely agree with that. Then, of course, my other favorite team, the Colts, they're not signing back Trent Richardson, it doesn't look like.
Nor should they. He's garbage.
I don't know. I kind of like the guy. I thought he did all right.
But, I mean, for what you paid for him, first round draft pick, and something else, I forget what the Colts all gave to the Browns, I would say that he was a bust for that kind of price tag for trading for him.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Cleveland's just going to waste it on another place kicker. I mean, seriously, I mean, all they've got is fucking quarterbacks and place kickers. That's all that's their whole fucking game plan for the last 5 years.
I believe actually Manziel was the pick that they used from that trade, actually.
I don't remember. It's been long ago. But we're running over now, so we definitely need to get out of here. We'll pick up in the fall with the NFL talk.
Sorry, you started talking about football. That's your fault.
I didn't know you were going to get that excited. So, thanks everybody that showed up in the chat room to chat with us tonight. Monday Night Yawn showed up as well, always entertaining. Angry Tenzai and Big Vic should be back from their vacation next week with the latest investigation into discovering who really committed the Benoit family murders. And maybe they will resolve a few other mysteries as well. I hear Shaggy and the gang has actually shipped the mystery machine over to Europe, and they're on a world-class trip all around the world and ending in Amsterdam. So, for the Raw Reaction, I am show host Killer Kev, wishing you good night. Thanks for listening through 90 minutes of this, and we will see you next week.
Peace out.